Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 12th episode of Compass Coffee Talk. My name is Stephen Hoffman. I say that going, holy mackerel, we've been going through this for over a year now, because this is a monthly show. I'd like to introduce my co-host, Bill Capsalis, who was quite instrumental in bringing this month's guests to the table. We're really excited. We think the conversation is very timely. And, I just want to welcome everybody in the natural products community tuning in this morning to our broadcast. I'm going to do the quick commercial talk before we get started. I want to thank the sponsors over the past year that have joined us to make this Zoomcast possible, where we can really discuss important issues that are of impact to our industry and how our industry can impact the greater community. So our sponsors are Allegro Coffee, Makes Sense, Compass Coffee Talk. You can find them nationally, pretty much everywhere. We're also really thrilled to work with Naturally Boulder, of which Bill serves as executive director. He and I are longtime colleagues in this industry, longtime friends, musical collaborators as well, which is a lot of fun. And also Naturally San Diego. If you have not checked out the Naturally Network, if you're in Chicago, if you're in Bay Area, if you're in Austin, Boulder, which was kind of the start of it all 15 years ago, these are great communities to find resources and connect with businesses in the region, and then connect nationally in this network through the Naturally Network. So Google it, check it out. We're also very thrilled to have Presence Marketing as a sponsor, one of the leading natural products brokerages in the nation. And we just signed on a new sponsor, Genius Foods, which makes some great gluten-free breads that you'll be hearing about. So thank you, Genius Foods, and you'll be hearing more about them. Bill, I'd love to turn it over to you to introduce our guests for this week. And again, thank you all for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It's good to see you guys again. And wonderful to have both of you here, Ryan and Carlotta, two friends of mine and people I respect a great deal in the industry. We're going to have a deep dive today on substantive issues around justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. And we want to share with you some information about the collaborative and about some work that Ryan's doing through his organization, Smoketown, fabulous agency out of Chicago. So, without further ado, maybe just ask you guys a question. I'll start with you, Carlotta. How are you doing in this crazy past year? Everything okay for you? And I know we were talking about vaccines earlier, but how are you doing?
All things considered, I am doing well, in that I have so much to be grateful for. There's been so much change and challenge, certainly at New Hope, where I work, and in our Boulder community with, the shootings on March 22nd. Those are just about a block away from where I live. And just the continued challenges that we're facing around, just violence against people of color all throughout the country. And so, it feels like there's been a lot of heavy things. And yet I also just look around me and I'm surrounded by an amazing family, amazing colleagues, industry friends, such as all of you. And when I really look at how much I have to be grateful for, it's almost overwhelming. So I think I'm feeling grateful and good. And, a big focus for me is my oldest son is leaving for college in the fall, and we're still on the college search journey, which I know I share that experience with Ryan. And that's been really, really an amazing time to connect with my oldest son. So, that's something I'm also really grateful for.
It's great. I'm glad you brought that up. That was one of my funnest times, was doing those college trips with my kid. It was really a blast. I loved it. I wanted to go back to school.
Totally.
Yeah. So thank you. And I really appreciate the grateful perspective. Ryan, how's things with you? How are you faring, and how's things been going this past year for you?
Yeah, well, first, I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's a tremendous honor. I'm exhausted, quite frankly. I've tried twice to write a post and be thoughtful about Dante Wright's assassination, and deleted both of them. And I think at the end of it, it's just I'm exhausted. I'm tired of thinking about that. I'm tired of seeing my son and my daughter in these folks. It's, the situation he was in is one that I just, my heart broke into 1,000 pieces, like Dante's mother said. So that is juxtaposed up against what Carlotta mentioned, that, my oldest, 18 years old, trying to choose between a couple of different schools. And it's just an amazing moment in our family. And, to see this young person who I, saw literally come into the world, be on this end of it, it's just remarkable. And if there's got to be, I'm sure maybe there's a psychologist or someone in the audience who can help me understand why juxtapositions like this are so emotionally exhausting. But that's kind of the situation that I'm in.
Okay, totally can relate to the thinking there. I wanted to make sure we dive right into the JEDI Collaborative, and in order to do that, we need to talk to one of the co-founders, Carlotta. And the JEDI Collaborative, if you're not familiar with it, is a natural industry initiative, and it is gaining steam. It's in its second year now. And Carlotta, why don't you give us a little history and bring us up to speed on where you're at today, and then we can talk about some of the other projects Ryan's working on that dovetail with the JEDI.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk about this topic and to focus on JEDI Collaborative, as well as the other industry initiatives that have come into play and that Ryan has played such a huge role in. And he's also been very, very supportive and instrumental in helping us think about the JEDI Collaborative. But true to its name, the JEDI Collaborative, and JEDI stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And it truly does exist because of the collaborative efforts of many natural product industry leaders, many natural product industry businesses and organizations. Cheryl O'Loughlin, who is the former CEO of Rebel and Cliff Bar and a longtime industry leader, and Laura Dickinson, who is the co-founder and executive director of the nonprofit One Step Closer, also known as OSC. They originally came together in 2019 to create an organization that would look at bringing more diversity, inclusion, belonging to the natural products industry. They were, through the work of OSC and the Climate Collaborative, which is another group that was born out of OSC, we're really seeing that we as an industry were very focused on climate action and biodiversity, but we weren't really talking about the people. We weren't talking about the need for greater diversity in our industry. And so they began to do outreach and get, others engaged in the effort. People like myself and Marianne Howland, who are also two of the co-founders, lots of other industry leaders. John Foraker was initially part of the group that started to bring this together, bringing together a consulting firm called the Avarna Group. They are JEDI experts, and to help us look at how we as a group could bring greater justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion to the industry. And so the JEDI Collaborative officially launched last year in April, and so it did come about before the murder of George Floyd last June. And that horrific incident and many of the other, just so many examples. And Ryan just spoke of another one that happened in Minnesota, that we really started focusing on how do we, through this work, really center what we're doing to support Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and other people of color. So over the last year, we've created a commitments framework that is intended to help inform, inspire, guide natural product companies to take JEDI actions, and so that they can really build justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion into the fabric of their organizations. JEDIcollaborative.com offers a lot of resources to understand these commitments and see that JEDI journey. We've launched some other programs, an early adopters program to engage and guide companies who are committed to this work, a women's peer-to-peer learning circle group, a CEO action initiative. We have done a fair amount of education and an industry benchmarking study. And so we have a lot of things that we're really proud about, and it's a step in the right direction, but we still have so much more as an industry to do. And that's when J.E.D.I, as we were facing the murder of George Floyd last year and really seeing that as an industry, we had so much work to do. That's when we engaged Ryan and Smoketown to really help us with our J.E.D.I 2.0 strategy, which we can talk more about. And we spent a lot of time digging into hard questions and looking at what we as an industry really can do to further our J.E.D.I initiatives. And from that, we have a pretty exciting J.E.D.I 2.0 initiative that we'll be launching at Natural Products Expo West Virtual, coming up at the end of next month. That's New Hope is hosting, and we're also pretty far along the process in hiring our first executive director for the J.E.D.I Collaborative. Nice. And so that's coming, and so we have some good progress, and a lot of work ahead of us.
Wow, I mean, that's a whole lot in a year, Carlotta. Just amazing. And with your new big job at New Hope, which we didn't touch on, but you've taken on a big role at New Hope. So amazing work there. So Ryan, Carlotta mentioned you got engaged. I think that what she really meant was you got hired to do something. And tell us a little bit about Smoketown and the work you do, and why you were a natural choice for that work for J.E.D.I Collaborative.
Yeah, so Smoketown is a boutique consultancy that works with purpose-driven organizations and brands to help them maximize their growth potential and therefore also maximize their impact on the world. We have two parts of our practice. One is the way that we supported the J.E.D.I Collaborative team. That is a strategy consultancy, classic kind of management consulting kinds of engagements that are focused on, they rally around this idea that we have that we call the big fight. Mm-hmm. That is the combination of growth and brand strategy with purpose driven strategy. So how are we going to create an integrated set of activities that produce both the maximum possible sort of impact on the world and also the maximum growth rate and viability of the enterprise. So that's one half of our practice. And then the second half of our practice, we are the fractional outsourced marketing leadership stack for fast growing brands across largely the natural products sector, universally brands that are purpose driven on some level. So that ties to like those two halves of our practice, tied to the two halves of who I am. The first half of my adult life, I was an activist. I wanted absolutely nothing to do with the corporate sector. I frankly felt like racism lived somewhere, like was somewhere embedded in capitalism, and I wanted to root it out rather than help it out. And then I reached a point where I saw the benefit of sitting at the intersection of building businesses that can generate financial reward while also transforming the world in really positive and profound ways. I figured out that there was really something to that, and changed my career and wound up in the consumer packaged goods industry for the subsequent 14 years of my career. So that ties to the brand strategy part of what our practice is up to. We've got a team. I'm based in Chicago, as you mentioned. My other folks are based in Dallas and the Bay Area, and we're just we feel incredibly honored to have the combination of skill sets that we do, and to be in this historical moment when it turns out that Generation Z and millennials are definitionally don't see the distinction between brands, between what they buy and what the brands that they buy represent. A startlingly large percentage of those two demographic groups just have a fundamental expectation that the brands that are going to be in their Instagram feed have to be brands that they actually believe in.
Ryan, I know you're involved in a couple of other initiatives. I don't know how deep. I don't know how you spend you have any time in the day to help your 18-year-old find a college. But
Yeah.
Included, which sounds like a really interesting initiative, and Potluck. Could you just touch on both of those real briefly for us?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll drop something in the chat here in a minute when I am no longer multitasking, because I like that. So a group of founders and CEOs of color got together and created an organization called Included. What Included does and is, it's a membership group, and it's exclusively for CEOs and founders in the CPG industry, and specifically CEOs and founders of color. The idea, we're right up front about the fact that this is a support system. This is a place to bring your challenges and your struggles and get support from peers who have been around the block and who've been in the same situation you have. And in the situation more specifically being not just having the top job, which is sort of by itself extremely difficult, but having the top job while being a person of color, which puts you at a different level of difficulty, frankly. So it's been an amazing ride. Actually, Carlotta, having built the big tent that is Expo West, so many things happen in and around Expo. This is one of the things that tried to happen originally at Expo West, the one that got canceled. It became a group just kind of grown out of that effort of just a bunch of folks of color wanting to get together and meet each other. Now we've got 50-something CEOs in membership, and we've supported each other in a whole host of ways. So that's what Included is. And then I am not a founder of Project Potluck, but I'm super proud of it. Project Potluck is an industry association of sorts. It's an industry group for people of color in the CPG industry at any level in their career. So where Included is specifically for CEOs and founders, Project Potluck, you can be at any point in your career journey. And in fact, Project Potluck is explicitly about helping folks make that move through their career and get the mentorship and the support that they need to thrive in this industry. It was founded by a group of super badass founders who are just phenomenal. And yeah, so I love what they're up to. And it's been really rewarding to see how much has happened in, everything that we've just said. I mean, just about has happened in 12 months, right?
Yeah.
So let's just acknowledge that a lot has happened. Not nearly enough has happened, right? So to my earlier point about juxtaposition and paradox, so not nearly enough has happened, and yet, we got to be honest that it's pretty remarkable what George Floyd's murder brought into being.
Yeah, it has created action, and that's to be. We should feel good about that on some level, at least the action part of it. We need some more change. I'm going to turn over to Steve for a second. There were a couple of news stories recently that came into our focus that we just love to get your reaction to. Steve, you want to go ahead and share those two news stories, and we'll hear from Carlotta and Ryan on their thoughts about it.
Oh, well, thank you guys. It's a great discussion. And, I like Carlotta, it's a smaller publication, but we reach an important audience. I serve as editor of an industry newsletter for the hemp industry. And I'll tell you, we work really hard to bring voices from diverse communities to that industry. And frankly, I'm very impressed to see so much involvement in hemp from women, from Native American tribes. We've actually had Winona LaDuke on this show talking about advocacy for hemp, Alex Whiteplume, Muriel Young Bear. There are others who I think are important role models. So we try to give them a voice to help pave the way toward the future. It's going to be a more diverse future, and these voices are important now. So when I see things happening in the industry, and I'm kind of leading up to, I think these are important models as well. And one I think that relates to us is the fresh market. I noticed on April 8th, not even a week ago, named an individual, Gerald Walden, as head of diversity for their retail chain. I just think that's a really positive sign, is good news for the natural grocery industry. Interestingly enough, Target as well is also committing to spending $2 billion with Black-owned businesses by 2025. That also was just published on April 7th within the week. So, you know, you brought something up interesting earlier, Ryan, like the juxtaposition that we're living in, right? I mean, but here's positive juxtaposition, and I think we need to celebrate this to show that it can be done at scale, as well as what I'm proud of J.E.D.I and our natural products industry is that we're actually even taking this initiative. So I thank you folks for really putting this out there.
Yeah, just be
So
curious.
what do you think about these? You know, any comments on, you know, when we see bigger businesses like this? And then here's my wrap up, and sorry, Bill, but I noticed also you have role models on the website, on the J.E.D.I website. And I think, again, that's really important to celebrate those role models and case studies, as you call them.
Mhm. Ryan, I'd like to hear your thoughts first, then I'll share mine.
Yeah, I think that there are, to our point earlier, I think that, you know, there are, like, we're standing on the shoulders of decades and decades of community organizing, of activism, of policy work, of, you know, folks who were on the front lines of what's now, you know, we talk about diversity and inclusion as if it's always been here. And there was a time when that was a radical step to say those two words in a corporate environment. So we're standing on the shoulders of a lot of effort and a lot of work. And it's also true that we hit an inflection point. At least I hope that's true. I mean, I think we still need, you know, there's still some more time on the clock, and we need to see where this all goes. But really talented, pressure building organizations like the 15% Pledge that emerged out of the George Floyd incident, and is a very big part of why Target and Fresh Market and some of these other retailers have decided to take meaningful steps. They were like the 15% Pledge has been and continues to be critical in forcing the very senior most folks in retail to answer the question, okay, wait a minute, why is such a small percentage of our suppliers diverse owned? Why is that? What can we do differently if we're not going to take the 15% Pledge, which is what Target chose to do? Well, what are we going to do instead? And what we do instead better damn well have a lot of zeros on it, right? So I think that what we're seeing is the output or the outcome of a lot of really talented and passionate people over decades, finally getting to the inflection point in sort of American culture that created some of the openings that we're now seeing that led to the examples that you talked about. But Carlotta, what's on your mind about it?
Well, I'm glad you shared that perspective, because I think that's really important to understand that for some of us in the industry, this is a newer initiative, but it is building off of a lot of hard work that's been done. And I am grateful to see that it's a topic that is coming up more often and that people really want to look at, discuss, and actually engage in action. I think for me, when I hear about particularly the Target initiative, that does speak to real action, to say we are going to really do everything we can to support Black-owned businesses. And knowing Karin Tobler at Target, who leads these initiatives on the food and beverage side, it's real. And we, as you see with Project Potluck and Included, we have amazingly innovative brands that are owned by, Black, Latinx founders. And so there's these amazing companies for us to really center and work around to support their success. And that's really a big focus for the J.E.D.I Collaborative moving forward, as well as New Hope, because while these entrepreneurs have been doing amazing things for a long time, but I think for so long, they didn't see the natural products industry as a place for them. And that's a loss for the natural products industry. That is truly a loss of perspective and innovation. And so I think the more that we can do to help create distribution opportunities for these great companies, help connect them with the funding that they'll need to launch and grow their companies, that also feels, really important. And that again will be a big focus for J.E.D.I Collaborative. And at New Hope, even, we're really looking at how do we support more of this work? Because for many years at our expos, we've really worked to bring into our conference program more diverse voices. But a lot of times you'd walk the show floor and you wouldn't see that level of diversity. That it doesn't mean the entrepreneurs didn't exist and they didn't have these amazing products. They just weren't seeing themselves as part of this industry. And so we really want to change that. And we're excited to work with Ryan and Included for our Expo East show in Philadelphia in September, as one step toward trying to just bring that diversity into an event environment that really has represented, I think, kind of the face of the ecosystem, and then do so much more to create elevated platforms for these diverse entrepreneurs, so that when Target and Fresh Times and other retailers really they want to make that 15% pledge, they want to be part of the solution. It's really, they easily see that there's all of these companies that they can choose from and support. So that's kind of what it says to me.
It's great. I do want to say that I think even at the local level here, we could and should be more inclusive, but we also have to change the narrative a little bit. We haven't been talking about it and we haven't been educating people about it. So we are making changes to do that here in the local level at Naturally Boulder. So I did want to mention that, Carlotta, and it's inspirational to hear about the expos. I know we're bumping up against a couple minutes more here on our talk. Steve, do you have any questions you just wanted to lob out there for Ryan and Carlotta? Just curious. And I know all of our listeners, on Facebook Live and other places where this will show up, if there's anything we need to do when we close out the session to just remind people how they can get involved, that would be great.
Well, I love the work you're doing targeted toward the industry. I think there may also be a way of helping these businesses garner more consumer awareness and support. I serve as an advisory board member of a great influencer network called ShiftCon Media. Carlotta, I know you know about it. Ryan, you will want to know about it. Ari Adams, a woman of color, is the CEO. It's one of the most diverse groups of influencers that I've worked with in natural. So to link J.E.D.I with ShiftCon is something I'd be happy to do. As a matter of fact, Compass Natural, we have reach into the natural products industry. So I'll just put it out there even publicly, things we can do to help support J.E.D.I. And Ryan, we should talk about, reaching for your brands that may be minority owned businesses that we want to make sure get attention out there in the industry. We strive to make that happen because we think that's all part of the new economy that we want to make happen. The natural industry's been always on the forefront of health advocacy, environmental advocacy. I think this challenge for diversity advocacy is one of the other frontiers that now our industry can and should take on. So, I just want to thank you very, very much. I also want to make sure folks know that all our Compass Coffee Talk episodes are available on YouTube. Just look up Compass Natural on YouTube or Compass Coffee Talk and you'll find us. Guys, is there any tie-in here with what like more recognized organizations like B Lab or BCorp are doing in terms of collaboration or advocacy? Because again, I think, you know, it's all about people, planet, profit. I think diversity is an important component of this. Have you had any discussions where you might see some progress in that regard?
I'll speak to that. I haven't spoken directly with the folks at BCorp. I know that, but they do come up a lot. And I guess one of the reasons that I value what they do, and one of the reasons that I hope that it's true, that they're challenging themselves and they're challenging the companies in their network to do more and do it differently, is that I believe the way we have to think about racism is that racism is endemic to the American economy and to the American political structure. And as such, it is going to take sustained effort, strategic focus, long-suffering work to dismantle it. And what's amazing about what the BCorp folks have done is they've created a framework that makes it straightforward for an entrepreneur or a business leader to embed changing the world into the core of their mission and their business model. Like that to me is what is fantastic about what they've done. And racism will concede to nothing less than that, right? Like the only way we're going to get this done is if companies go way beyond hiring a diversity and inclusion consultant and go way beyond, interesting posts in their Instagram feed and embed anti-racism into the core of what it means, into the core of the definition of success for that enterprise. And that is what the Benefit Corp structure, at least, has the ability to help companies do. So my hope is that somebody on that end of it, having built such a phenomenal construct, is helping companies use that construct to bring about anti-racism.
I agree. And I'll just add, actually, Bill, there was a Naturally Bolder webinar yesterday focused on climate justice. And I think B Lab and B Corps are just two of the groups that are really focused on climate justice, looking at climate action and how that intersects with J.E.D.I. And they've created a really valuable playbook, climate justice playbook, that I think provides actionable information on how companies not only address climate action with their work, but then how that impacts particularly people of color and how they look at their supply chains and ensure that truly justice is represented and as it connects to climate. So I'm excited about that. It's a new focus for the Climate Collaborative as well. And, it's something we talk a lot about, and it's a big focus for Flock, which Ryan and Bill, we're all involved in. Yep. So climate justice is probably one of the most exciting new areas of focus for me as we come out of 2020 and head into this year.
Yeah, it's really been interesting to see how everything interconnects, as we all know it does. But so we have come to the end of our time. We have, before we say our goodbyes, we're going to select a winner for some prizes we like to send out at the end of the coffee talk here. My coffee went cold on me. I didn't get to drink it. But Tom Braun is going to win a couple of things from Compass Coffee Talk for joining in. Thanks, Tom, for attending. And I'll just say thank you, guys. This is not a discussion that is just a half hour and out. I mean, this needs to go on everywhere we are, and I have a feeling that it will. So with you guys driving the discussion, I have a lot of confidence that it will be top of mind for us in the industry here as we go forward. So thank you so much from my corner of the screen here, and really appreciate both of you very much. Great to call you friends. And Steve, I'll turn it over to you for a closeout.
Well, thank you, Bill. I want to thank our sponsors, and Ryan, it's a pleasure to meet you over Zoom. I look forward to it happening in person.
Indeed.
Carlotta, as always, thank you for all your support and everything you do for the industry and all our collaboration now over several years. Bill, my stalwart co-host, thank you all. Again, you can see our episodes at YouTube. Go to Compass Coffee Talk, take a look there. And our next guest on May 19 is going to be Ronnie Cummins, the co-founder of the Organic Consumers Association. So we want to continue to talk about the power of the consumer in our discussions with Compass Coffee Talk. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.